Welcome to Green is Good, and today we're so excited to have Eric Lowitt on with us. He's the Managing Director of Nexus Global Advisors and the author of the new groundbreaking book, The Collaboration Economy. Welcome to Green is Good, Eric Lowitt.
John, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. You're doing so many great things, and we have a lot to cover. But before we get into it, Eric, you have just a fascinating biography and journey. I want you to share with our listeners today a little bit of how you became over at Nexus Global Advisors and why you've written the books you've written. Talk a little bit about your journey first.
Absolutely. If somebody had told me 20 years ago I'd be running an advisory firm and being an author and a speaker, I would have kind of looked at them like, whoa, what planet are you from? A little bit of my background.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I remember sitting my junior year of high school, Spanish language class, looked to my left, to my right, thinking about my college applications and thought, man, every one of us has the same exact background. What's going to make me different? Oh. I have a photographic memory, and I thought, how do I use it? Right. So I started to teach myself Japanese. It just seemed like something so completely out of the blue and so completely different. And that started off a journey that's led me here. I moved out to, when I was in college, moved out to Kyoto in Japan, spent 2 years living with host families, studying in Japanese, moved up to Tokyo to try to work with a couple of investment banks. That didn't work out, moved back to New York where I grew up. Spent the next 4 years in management consulting with Accenture, went to Wharton for my MBA, went to Fidelity Investments for about 5 years afterwards, back to Accenture where I got tapped to help to build a sustainability consulting program and sustainability research program. And this was 2006. I remember asking one of my bosses at the time, hey, man, this is terrific. I'm excited to lead a sustainability consulting practice and a sustainability research program. Just one small, tiny question. What the heck is sustainability? And so I've been on a journey ever since to try to answer that question.
That's great.
I left Accenture in 2009 to start to do the research for and eventually write my first book, The Future of Value, which came out in 2011. And since then, I've been giving talks around the world, advising CEOs of small and large companies alike, all of which led to new questions and new research that led to my new book, The Collaboration Economy.
So it all started with you just wanting to learn how to speak Japanese. I love it. It did. Life's a journey, man, and that's a great one. And so talk a little bit about the first book. Let's start at the first book, The Future of Value. Talk a little bit about what you covered there, why you decided to cover those topics, and what was the result after that book got published.
The Future of Value, on the face, one could say there are like 1,000 green books out there. Why The Future of Value? And the reason why was because I needed a book that would be able to show companies once and for all two things. One was, what is the financial business case in terms of being able to go to your CFO for embracing sustainability? So how do you make money on this stuff? But then the second piece was, hey, I'm a strategy guy. How do I connect sustainability to strategy? So while you're selling sustainability to your CFO from a financial return perspective, you can also sell sustainability to your CEO as a means to differentiate your company from your peers. And that's what the Future of Value is all about. It's about how do you create a company that's strong today and even stronger tomorrow for competitive advantage that, at the risk of sounding as if I'm making a pun, is truly sustainable in today's hyper-competitive marketplace.
So you wrote that, and then that evolved into you thinking about and writing The Collaboration Economy. What was the genesis of that, and what are the takeaways from The Collaboration Economy that you want our listeners to hear about? Through
the beginning of 2012, I had a chance to tour Europe to give a series of talks on the future of value, and a number of people kept asking me two similar questions. One was, if you've got a company that's achieved sustainability, how does that help our world achieve sustainability? And the second question was, well, how do we affect great change quickly? So both questions seem to be getting at the same thing, which is there's a bigger world out there than one single company achieving sustainability. How do we make that bigger world a reality? So I dug into a new set of research, interviewed about 35 CEOs, about 110 boards of directors, and a number of other really senior folks in the public, private, and civil sectors to answer that question. How do you affect great change quickly? And the result was, no surprise, start by saying, look, whether we're a person, a company, a government, we can't affect great change when it comes to mitigating climate change. When it gets to ensuring we've got food, water, energy for not only 7.5 billion people today, but 9.5 billion people in 40 years. The only way you can make great change happen quickly is to get public, private, and civil sector collaboration at massive scale with shared investment and shared benefits. That's the genesis of and the core secret within the Collaboration Economy book.
And when did that book come out?
It came out on Earth Day, actually, April 22nd this year, so just 2 weeks ago.
Oh, awesome. And how's it been going so far?
You know, it's been going really, really well. I've been blown away by the folks here in the States, in Canada, and in Europe in particular, reaching out, saying some very nice words, congratulations, but more importantly, inviting me to come out and give talks. I've been recently invited to go talk to a number of members of the EU Parliament, as an example.
Wow. So who should be reading this, Eric? Who should be reading this book? Is this for CEOs, CFOs, CSOs, or just the population at large?
I think it's general. It really should be the population at large.
Okay.
Because the question I get from some of my friends who know what I do is, hey, I'm a single person.
Yeah.
Just one person. What do I do to affect great change? And what I purposely did in this book, and my 80-year-old dad just proved it over the weekend, is I tried to write this book in a way that A, was not insomnia curing, and B, wasn't consulting jargon, 16-syllable word-laden type book. Instead, I wanted to make it easily accessible, general readers, as well as CEOs across the board.
Cool. And for our listeners who just joined us, we're on with Eric Lowitt. He's the managing director of Nexus Global Advisors. He's also an author, and he's just written the Collaboration Economy. You could check him out at Eric Lowitt, LOWITT.com or nexusglobaladvisors.com. Eric, talk a little bit about, in the Collaboration Economy, the essence of becoming a collaborative leader. What does it become? What does it really mean to become a collaborative leader, and how does one become such?
So I've come to this conclusion, informed by conversations with 25 different CEOs who've said similar things, that for the first time in capitalism's history, companies are no longer capable of controlling, but now only influencing their own corporate destinies. Very simple example to prove that, and then I'll get to what it means to be a collaborative leader, because it'll make sense.
Interesting.
Coca-Cola. If Coca-Cola doesn't have water, it doesn't have product, it goes out of business.
Right.
Period.
Right.
But it doesn't control water. Nobody controls water. And so that means Coca-Cola can no longer control its own destiny. It has to work with stakeholders to get access to the water it needs to make its products.
Right.
So Muhtar Kent, the CEO for Coca-Cola, one of the most progressive visionaries I've had the privilege of learning about and getting to know a little bit, understands that the only way to affect great and lasting change through Coca-Cola or via Coca-Cola is by having what I call a collaboration mindset. That is, first, embracing this idea that you can't do it alone. Second is you can only influence your own corporate destiny. And third is you have to be able to see your position and the change you can affect in your position, not in terms of how does it best improve my ego, but rather how does it best enhance my professional long-term legacy. Collaborative leader thinks in terms of legacy, not ego, in terms of my role is a privilege and not my earned right.
Got it.
He or she thinks in decades, not minutes or hours.
Got it. Hey, you've interviewed and written about so many fascinating people during your journey and during your book, the writing of both these great books. Share one of your favorite stories with our listeners from the Collaboration Economy. Sure.
So there's a company in Norway called Grieg Shipping Group.
Okay.
Everybody's familiar with Maersk and Costco and these big shippers. Grieg is a big shipping group, and one of the things that Grieg Shipping Group is trying to figure out, and I applaud them every day for this, is that we're so familiar with these big, huge ships that move cars and cargo, tankers and bulkers. And when they're on the water, meticulously cared for. End of their useful life, instantly the name of the company is stripped from the boat. They're sold to middlemen, end up on beaches in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is in the news these days because of the garment factory building collapse of 100 or 700 people. Also in Bangladesh, there are beaches with hundreds of these rusting tanker ships that have been deconstructed by hand by migrant workers without rights. People have lost lives, limbs, eyesight, so on and so forth.
Wow.
Grieg Shipping Group, for-profit company, created a second company called Grieg Green, to effectively buy all of these old, used ships from its competitors and properly and responsibly recycle these ships so that the environment isn't harmed, people are properly treated in dignified ways from worker perspective, and local economies can benefit as a result.
Wow.
So it's this great story of a company saying, enough with a bad condition, we're going to affect great change, and the only way we can do that is working with people on the ground, NGOs, partners, government agencies, and the like to affect great and lasting change. Grieg Shipping Group, great story.
Wow, I love it. That makes so much sense. And the collaboration economy is filled with many, many, many other great stories just like that one.
Absolutely is. In fact, I tried to bring a number of these, what people would think are, things much bigger than we can imagine, these types of stories to life. Companies like Coca-Cola and Unilever and GE, companies that touch our lives every day. And so people can read this book and say, hey, you know what? These are normal people just like I am. I can affect great change too, whether it's jumping on the Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn and using my social media network to start to affect great change just by making people aware of the massive challenges we face and the little things we can do that can make a big difference.
I asked you earlier about who should be reading this, and just one, I'm going to take it one step further. You said basically generally everybody. Does someone have to have a sustainability or an environmental or tree-hugging background to really get a lot out of or enjoy your book? Or it could be just someone who's really just starting to get interested and take baby steps towards sustainability or wanting to leave the world a better place than they found?
Absolutely. It's definitely the latter. Because
Okay.
when I introduced myself as a person, one thing I didn't say is that I'm just like all of your other listeners. I'm a normal guy. I don't have superhuman powers. I can't do this alone. I don't have a sustainability technical background.
Right.
Rather, I write from a common sense background. And common sense, to me, says, well, if you see something wrong in the world, try to fix it. If you can't do it alone, get colleagues to help you.
I love
That's how I wrote the book. It's not for technical backgrounds. It's rather for general consumption.
And it's so true. Collaboration is really where it's at nowadays. We don't live in a world where you could just go act unilaterally anymore. You have to act really in concert. Otherwise, nothing great gets done. I love what you're doing. Talk a little bit. We're down to, unfortunately, the last 2 minutes. What's on the horizon for Eric Lowitt? Is there another book? What are you going to do next?
Man, I want a vacation.
I don't blame you.
Now, I've got books 3, 4, and 5.
Oh.
Third, fourth, and fifth book are already on the drawing table, and I'm spending more and more of my time in two pursuits. One is giving these types of talks around the world, and two is through my advisory firm, Nexus Global Advisors. I work with CEOs of some very large companies and some smaller ones as well, to just really figure out non-disruptive, capital-efficient, non-costly type changes they can make to A, become sustainable within their own business, and then B, affect great and lasting change through the ideas and thinking of the collaboration economy.
So shameless plug, if people want to hire you for Nexus Global Advisors work, they just go to your site, nexusglobaladvisors.com?
It is a bit of a shameless plug, but yes, nexusglobaladvisors.com. And what I mean by Nexus, just real quick to make it personal for listeners, I believe that great and effective change happens quickly at the nexus of public, private, and civil sector collaboration.
Wow, that's great. So for our listeners out there that want to learn more about Eric, you could go to www.ericlowitt.com or, of course, buy his books on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all other great book outlets, The Future of Value and The Collaboration Economy. These are two important books, and we can all learn a lot about them. Eric, you're always invited back on Green is Good to talk about your books now and the books you're going to be writing in the future. You are a sustainability superstar, Eric Lowitt, and truly living proof that green is good.
Thank you, John. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show today.